Welcome to Page Turners, a weekly bookish podcast for every kind of reader. Whether you want to explore a variety of genres, tick books off your growing TBR, or simply skip the reading for book club, we've got you covered. That's Liv.
And that's Amy. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, good, thank you.
Honestly, guys, we're not going to beat around the bush. We're not going to lie to you. This is our second of our two episodes back to back. So,
Yeah. I'm really pleased you said it because I was kind of taking your lead there of are we just going to pretend that we haven't been talking or are we gonna tell them? But I don't think we're good enough actors to get away with that, to be honest.
no. Well, I mean, speak for yourself. Um,
Do you have any talking points that you didn't mention last time?
I suppose it would be remiss of me not to mention Fiction Fest. Tickets are on sale. General sale tickets are on sale. There's about half of them left, just under half left. So yeah, grab yourself a ticket. Come along to Manchester in April. Amy's going to be there, even though she doesn't know what the hell's happening, but she's going to be there, maybe.
I'm going to be there.
And
I'm going to be there. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to be there.
Amy and I will be hosting a couple of panels together. And yeah, there'll be a bunch of authors there that you'll love, different genres, all sorts. And yeah, come to Fiction Fest.
Awesome. Do you want to give us a little taste of any new authors that have signed up? Because I think you mentioned a couple last time. Not last episode, but maybe a couple of episodes ago.
So as well as our some of our authors, we have sponsors. So we've got Page and Wick involved.
Hmm.
They are our headline sponsor. We're very excited for that. Some other sponsors are we've got our official bookseller is the Mysterious Bookcase, and they've just opened their physical premises in Bournemouth. In terms of other sponsors, we've got Tales and Tomes, which is this cute fucking fantasy shop, which honestly I'm obsessed with. I can't wait. I honestly can't wait.
Oh, love it.
Um,
Fantastic.
Authors. We've got Abby Eaton, author of Dragonheart, which is a fantasy. We've got Lauren Dedrug, who wrote A Curse of Crows and A Dance of Serpents. We've got Georgia Cook, who wrote a short story collection of strange finds. She is very horror based. She's wrote a book called The Hotel, and she's also written a Doctor Who book for those sci-fi fans out there.
Oh, cool.
A.D. Jones, he is another horror writer. Monique Medved is romance. Janisha Boswell. Jack Strange is repping our queer lit.
Love it.
And there's lots more to come as well. Frances White, she wrote Voyage of the Damned, so we're very excited for that. All these people and more.
Fantastic.
Come, you get to meet us at the very least. Like if you're not interested in any of those authors, you'll get to meet us.
We'll be there. You can come say hello to us. So, if nothing else, as you say, worth the ticket alone, I would think.
Can you put a price on meeting your favorite podcasters? Yes, you can, turns out.
Anything? I mean, we know there's not because if you've just listened to the previous episode, you know that we don't have anything bookish news to discuss apart from Fiction Fest. Is there anything though, just in case you've thought of something?
Yeah, I thought maybe I would think of something, but I'm trying to think of big books that have also been published. Richard Osman's new book is out. I have
Oh
yet to
yeah.
read it. Any of your big anticipated reads out?
Um, Not anticipated as such, but there is a book that I really want to get my hands on, and it's not available as an ebook, and I can't find the physical book anywhere except Amazon. But it is a horror. It is an Irish folk tale horror called Knock Knock Open Wide, and I just really want to read it,
Oh,
and I
that sounds
can't find it, and it's kind of making me want to read it more because I can't find it. You know.
interesting. I hope it's
Um,
not disappointing.
Me too, but it's by Neil Sharpson. So yeah, I am keen to find it, and I can't at the moment. I think you can get it on Amazon, but I'm really trying to avoid doing that if I can. So they do have it in Blackwell's, so we'll see.
There we go then.
Yeah, we've talked about what we're currently reading. Have you got anything else that you've got on the go at the same time?
What else am I reading? I've been reading a bit of fan fiction, bit of Formula One fan fiction.
Nice, nice, nice. Anything particularly good for any F1 lovers that are listening? No.
No, absolutely not.
We can
One,
discuss in great detail on Saturday. I absolutely love your unhinged fanfic choices. I loved the conversation we had last time we met and we talked about it. That's when we last met. Is it? We went to Edinburgh and we had pigs and we went to pigs and we went to the Cocktail Geeks. Was that not the last
oh
time?
yes, and we went to the event at Waterstones.
That was July, pretty sure. And that's why I couldn't find it because it wasn't at the weekend, it was midweek. We went on like a
We
Wednesday or something.
did. It was so yeah, it was really early, July.
Hmm.
Okay, well then there we go. That makes
There
me
we
feel
go.
better.
Hmm.
Sorry guys, if you'd listened to the last episode, which you might not have, we were trying to figure out when the last time we actually met in
Hmm.
physical person was.
Hmm.
And it was early July, so mystery solved. Well done, Amy. I forgot we went to pigs. Oh, I bloody love
I
pigs.
know.
Right.
Pigs
Anyway,
was good, wasn't it?
really was.
Mm.
Anyway, um,
Really could
uh,
do that. We could do with that right now. That would be delicious.
nothing in the world
Hmm.
but charcuterie. That's Amy and mine
I know.
sort of like top tier. Because anything can be charcuterie, you know? Ugh. You need your
Make it
fundament
small enough.
you need your fundamentals in there, obviously, your cheese and your meat.
Mm.
But then otherwise,
You good bread and some olives, but otherwise go wild. Just do what you got to do.
absolutely. Right. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I've been reading some unhinged fanfics.
Love it.
I just
Mm.
see people on TV and I wonder what it would be like to have sex with them, so I read about it.
That's what that is the beauty of fan fiction. Like that's what we all want. Fictional characters, or in your case, real people. We just want to
Yeah.
put ourselves in that position. Yeah,
And also I
fair
don't want
enough.
to have sex in real life, so I just read about it.
Boom. Yeah, I haven't.
Um,
Do you know? I haven't read anything like fantasy, romance, romantasy, for ages. Nothing's
yeah,
really.
the last thing I read that was fantasy romance was Arcana Academy. And we all know how that went.
Gosh, oh God, that wouldn't be enough to put you off right enough. Mm. Mm. Um, yeah, but we're not reading about fantasy romance because we are well into spooky season.
We
This is
are.
our third spooky book of the
It is.
season. Liv, would you like to tell us what we have read this week?
Yes, Amy, I would love to tell us. We have read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. And for those of you that are not familiar with Nat, that's a man.
That's a man. Hmm.
I didn't know.
Do you know though? I think I got him mixed up with Natalie Cassidy, who is like a a niche.
Sonia.
So I was going to say, for those of you not in the UK, a soap star from the UK, who I don't think, bless her heart, is particularly famous anymore. But she used to be in one of the big soaps, didn't she?
Yeah,
EastEnders, I think.
I think she's definitely probably famous in the UK.
Mm, mm.
But like she doesn't have international fame. And
No,
I
no.
don't think we can hold that against her.
She ain't cracked America, but that's okay. We don't mind that. But that's why I thought instantly that Nat Cassidy was a woman because I
Yep.
was like, oh, Natalie
I
Cassidy. No.
I didn't realize Nat Cassidy was a man until the end of the book, and there was a forward, and then there was a bit of like there was a picture of him, like in like the author's notes and stuff like that, of like he lives in blah blah blah, and I was like, oh my God.
We can definitely discuss that because our main character is a woman. So it's very interesting to see what we thought, especially for you, as you were reading it thinking it was a woman writing woman,
Mm,
and then it wasn't. That would be really interesting to talk about.
let's go. Trigger warnings, my dearest Amy.
Okay, now this is interesting because there is a huge content warning section, with not just the list of content warnings, but also like a little, like, I don't know, almost like a little manifesto about why they are good and people need to stop complaining about them.
Yes.
Okay, so this book contains graphic depictions and or discussions of murder, gore, dismemberment, needle trauma, blood-borne diseases, spiders, insects, suicidal ideation, abuse, grief, alcoholism, parent death, child trauma, child endangerment, and a whole lot more. And then the last thing is it borrows a few tropes from fairy tales. Happy endings isn't one of them.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Excellent. And with that, we move straight into the speedy summary.
which we are no longer timing.
We are not.
If you
I'm
didn't
sorry,
listen to the
everybody.
last episode, go
Yeah.
back and do that.
It's just a little tidbit for us to not have to bother doing anymore, which is really nice.
Yeah,
Amy's still going to count me down though, just as for tradition.
absolutely. Are you ready?
I am.
3, 2, 1, go.
Jess, a struggling actress in LA, finds a terrified 5-year-old boy hiding outside her apartment one night. She takes him in, only to discover he's being hunted by his monstrous father, a man who can literally turn into a huge wolf-like creature driven by fear and rage. As Jess and the boy go on the run, she learns the child has a terrifying gift. Whatever he fears or imagines can become real. The monsters chasing them, and even the wolf, are just manifestations of that fear. Meanwhile, an FBI agent, Michael Santos, is following them, investigating the trail of brutal deaths left behind. Jess tries to control the boy's fear, but it is ultimately unsuccessful, and they are found by his father, who, it turns out, is an ex-soldier who volunteered for scientific testing in the military, but the sterilization didn't work on him, and voila, magic kid. The boy and his father are hugging as he apologizes to his son before killing him. It is further revealed that the boy has willed Jess to be like him, and she ends the book by envisioning a world without fear and thus erases everything born of it, including all of humanity, maybe?
Mm, excellent. Really good. Um, yeah, there's a lot to talk about here.
Yes. Instead of first impressions, let's start
Mhm.
with you loved this book, didn't you? I got this straight away.
I think this is one of my favorite books of 2025.
Whoa! Beep, beep, beep.
And I'm going to say it. I'm going to put my stamp of my endorsement on there. I loved it. Absolutely thought it was fantastic. Didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. It honestly wasn't one that I really had huge expectations of. I was like, yeah, sounds fun. Werewolf book. That'll be good. We'll have a little look at it. And then first of all, as soon as it started, and I loved the kind of very like 80s style chase horror tropes coming through, I thought this is going to be fabulous. And then when we found out what the little boy, who we only ever know as Kiddo the whole time, what he could do, and the idea that he could bring his fears to life, I was like, this is just going to be a real bit of me. And it was.
See, I also loved this book up until a point. I thought this book was what I had always thought a horror book could be. Not scary again, unsettling, creepy. I was
Mhm.
tense. The whole thing about so we meet Jess and she works in a diner and she goes to clean the toilet and she gets pricked with a sort of a used needle. And that already I was
Me too.
you know? It's the bit like in the Descent that again, sorry everyone, we watched last year as part of our scary spooky season, where both of us agreed that one of the scariest bits of the Descent is the bit where one of them gets caught in the cave, not the cannibals, but it's that claustrophobic bit where it's like, but yeah, the very real fear of being pricked by a used needle, a grubby needle, like terrifying.
I thought because I knew it was like there was some kind of werewolf situation, and we had the like prologue part where the boy was at home and his dad was sort of transforming into the wolf-like creature and chased him out into the street. I thought that her friend at work she was going to come out and basically she was going to be like slaughtered and everybody in the diner was going to be dead, and that's where the story would start. So the fact that it said something like she was bitten, I was like, oh God, is it like a rat or a spider or like what is it? And then it was even worse. And it was a real sort of slam back to reality because it wasn't something supernatural. It was something really real.
That's really interesting that you would say that because I toyed with a completely different thought. I thought the needle was going to be like a werewolf, not vaccine, like a toxin or something, let's say that. And that and that she would become a wolf. But then I was a bit like, that wouldn't really make any sense because it was the old guy using it, so
Mm.
yeah, but then to be, oh no, it's just very real, like you said, that slap bang to reality of, oh no, this is very much it was so clever because there was all the way through, and she can't get tested. She keeps not being able to get tested, and she keeps just being like, just they keeps having to keep moving and stuff like that. And so she eventually she finds out maybe like 75% in, 80% of the book, but you have that fear with you constantly about what's going to happen
Whole
to her.
time.
Because even if she survives this horror that's chasing her around, and then also the kid, um, what 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 awaits her at the end there?
It really spoke to me. And I think that's why I loved it so much because I really struggle personally with like avoidance and avoidant behaviors. And like I would rather not know than know. And I know that's not healthy. And I'm going to therapy about it, guys. So you don't have to comment. But that really spoke to me because the things that she was saying, like, I'll just do it later, I'll just go later, like, I'll, and then she looked it up online and then she almost like closed the laptop and hid the laptop away. Like,
Yeah.
all that stuff really hit me. And I thought, oh,
Yeah, there
was
was
this a little bit too real?
Ooh. There was a glorious bit, which I think is the same bit you're talking about. She goes to the apartment and she says something like, I only intended to sit down for like 10 minutes or something, and then I know it's 3 hours later or something.
Hmm.
And like, she's clearly like, yeah, that spoke to me as well, 100%. Like, that time gap of just
Hmm.
disassociating because
Yes.
you don't want to sort of get started on something or admit to something or have to do something. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of whole like spiral rabbit hole thing, isn't it? Like, as soon as I start this, it's going to lead to lots more consequences that I then have to face. It's
Yeah.
not going to be simple. I'm going to have to go and get a test. I'm going to have to wait for the results, and I'm going to have to, if whatever the answer is, I'm going to have to deal with it. And it's all that side of things that we find out about Jess is that she is just fundamentally scared of everything. She's a very anxious person.
Which is really great because, and obviously, I know she's written that way because that's the point of her. She's supposed to be able to then have to overcome her fears to ensure
Mm-hmm.
that our child, who we do find out at some point is called Peter Jr., but it's never used. He's always referred to as
Mm-hmm.
Kiddo because he doesn't even remember his name. It's so sad. And yeah, so she has to keep him calm and tell herself the things that other people would tell you that you don't listen to, of, oh, nothing to be worried about, this is fine. She has to tell herself that to then be able to tell him that. It was really great. Again, another book that horror-wise, the horror isn't the main point.
No, I loved the afterword because it was clear that Nat had got some of that inspiration from attending therapy and all the kind of techniques that you are taught in therapy, because that is a technique of, well, what would you tell yourself if you were, if you were your friend or if a friend came to you and said these things, and that's always so much easier than actually doing it for yourself. Yeah.
100%. Well, it's like whenever I'm in a sort of a depressive period or I'm in a low period, I cannot feed myself. I cannot look after
Mm.
the basic rhythms of myself. So, a lot of the time Alex makes my lunch to make sure
Hmm.
that he can guarantee that
Hmm.
I'm at least fed that
Yeah.
very basic need.
Mm.
It's because I'm looking after myself rather than looking after someone else. Yeah.
Yes, totally. It's easy to tell well, not easy, but it's different to say to someone else like, oh no, you need to speak to someone about that. That could be something that you need to know about that. Whereas I've been in situations where I'm like, I don't need to know. I'm just not going to know
Yeah.
because if I don't know, nothing bad can happen, and that's not healthy. But that is the reality of what I've had to work through for a really
Yeah.
long time.
Oh my God. Look at us.
Getting deep in this episode, strap in. And I knew that reading this book, 'cause I thought I'm going to have to, like, we're going to have to talk about this because it's such a huge part of the story. And then obviously Nat is very open and honest about his kind of mental health journey and things at the end. So I thought we're going to have to get deep here. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Definitely like cementing the fact that you will be telling no one of your family about this podcast. This is it, guys.
Nobody knows.
All my family know because I'm like, listen to the fucking podcast. None of Amy's family know that we
None
do
of
that we
mine
do
know.
this.
No, because not, well, that's the thing. I think if people listen to it, they'd heard me say stuff like that, they'd be like, "Do you really? Is that how you feel?" Because I'm very good, and we've talked about this in many personal kind of conversations, like very good at masking that. And I think if you are someone that experiences any kind of mental health struggles or, um, things like that in your own life, then you do need to kind of almost find coping techniques, and masking them from your friends and family is one of them, because you think, well, it's easier just not to get the sympathy and have to deal with it. I'd rather just not have you know.
That's it. For me, it's attention and like, but not necessarily attention, scrutiny,
Mm.
but not necessarily negative
Hmm.
scrutiny, but somebody watching you and being
Yes.
aware that they need to watch you for a particular reason. Them having realized something is wrong and thus they check in more for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a part of me that doesn't want that because I know it never lasts.
Interest. Okay, that's interesting. So you'd rather not have it at all than have it and then it go.
Yeah, because then it feels
Yeah.
disingenuous.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fair
do you
enough.
not
Hmm.
check in with me this regularly normally, or is it just because I've got a problem now?
Hmm. And yeah, it's maybe something to be fixed, or it's an item on the to-do list, like, oh, I've done my bit, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
get that.
back to the book.
This is our therapy podcast now. Um, oh yeah, back to what you were saying of it from the very beginning, and then to be honest, when there it was just a kind of typical, what I thought was just going to be a typical chase story,
Yeah.
I was a little bit cold about it. I was like, I'll read it, but you know, it's not going to stick with me.
Hmm.
And then I couldn't really understand what was going on at the scene where Peter was watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I could not. That took me a while to process. Like, sorry, what?
So I remember telling Alex as I was reading this, because I was obviously fully in, like, okay, this is fascinating, this is what's happening. And then it was about a chapter before she realizes that it's the chapter before when she goes out and she's told him that she's a celebrity. And it was
Yes.
that bit where everyone's asking for, and she's at the clinic or whatever, and they're like, people are getting, and I turned to Alex and I said, I think this kid has the ability to manifest reality or like change reality.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
like, and I was like, so that means, and I said in my head, so I was like, so that means that the wolf isn't actually a wolf. He's just his dad, and his rage is what makes the kid think he's a wolf. And I couldn't understand how it took her so long to fucking figure that out. Anyway, but yes. So Nat doesn't allude to the fact that it's Who Framed Roger. Well, sorry, he doesn't explicitly state it's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. For those of you who fucking loved Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like myself, hands up, who fucking loves, yeah, well, thank you, Amy, yes.
Hmm.
Um, as a kid, it's basically like imagine Looney Tunes or Cartoon Network or something where you have your 2D
Hmm.
animation figures. You've got your Roger Rabbit, who's basically Bugs Bunny. You've got Jessica Rabbit, who is. I mean, if
Hmm.
you don't know who Roger
Come
Rabbit is or
on.
who Framed Roger Rabbit is, that's fine. But if you don't know who Jessica Rabbit is, I mean,
Exactly.
she is the sexiest cartoon that's ever existed.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
she's his wife, and but then you've got they mix in the real world, and it's such a mad film, and I
It's a
can't.
bit like, and I don't even know how far apart these two things are, but I know the one came after it. It's a bit like Space Jam.
I was literally going to say it's a bit like Space Jam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
Um,
then Space Jam came out in the early 90s, didn't it? So actually, if you don't know Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you might not know Space Jam either.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I would have thought that Who Framed Roger Rabbit was before Space Jam.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I don't know.
I'm going to say,
Maybe.
right, would you like to have a guess? I reckon we're going late 80s, so I'm going to go
Mm,
89.
I'll go 86. I'll go a little bit
Ooh, okay.
earlier.
1988.
Oh, right in the middle. Interesting. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so like in terms of Space Jam, because I think Space Jam came out.
Oh yeah, let's have a look.
mm,
I think Space Jam was about like 94,
I went to see it in the cinema, so I think, yeah, 1994, 95 is a good shout.
96.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I went to see it with my cousins. I remember that as a memory.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if I've actually ever seen Space Jam.
It's not that good. Like when you watch it again as an adult, it's not great.
No, that's it. You need that nostalgia of it. I think I've
Mm,
seen like bits of it and stuff, but I don't know if I've actually ever sat down and watched it from the beginning to the end.
no.
But
No, fair.
yes, this is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and this is the bit for me that completely destroyed the tension, the
Oh,
creepiness, everything, because basically he manifests Christopher Lloyd's character, who, if you haven't seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit, maybe if you've seen Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, like the head Nazi in that with the hat and the leather coat, that's sort of what Christopher Lloyd looks like in this film. And he's got like two sort of cartoon weasels with big hammers and stuff. It just took me completely out of it. It was
yeah.
too ridiculous, too comedic, and I was just like, I have lost all unnervingness in me now of what's going to happen,
Oh,
whatever. And then
yeah, fair enough.
it's almost like the whole thing became a cartoon of like, oh, when they jump off the building and she tells him that the breath in their lungs will get them on the ground, and that all happened. It just felt too cartoony, too Looney Tunes from then on until we got to the end,
Yeah,
and then it became really fucking real again.
really, really again. Yeah, you're right, because the part when they're in, I think I don't think it says explicitly, but again, it's mentioned that they're at a Target and it's Halloween, and um the boy gets scared by the Halloween decorations. And then the Halloween decorations just go mad and basically start like attacking everybody, and it's like a bloodbath. Yeah, maybe just a bit too, as you were saying before, too cute, too comedic, too cartoony.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think
Mm.
I would have gotten on with the Halloween decorations if that had been done first, because I think, the way he manifests his dad, you could manifest a wolfman costume or a skeleton or
Mm.
witch or whatever,
Mm.
and those things can be scary. But it was just so like so ridiculous.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's fair. That is fair. I agree. I think it was this some of like I love this, and like there are flaws, but I just had a great time with it. But there were things about the kind of rules that really did confuse me slightly.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily that it was something he was afraid of, just it was more something he had quite a passionate reaction to, I felt.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
that he necessarily wanted, like when the big twist. So the big twist was great. I thought when basically you find out that the little boy, he says to her, "You're just like me." And they were actually having a different conversation about, her telling him that she's afraid a lot or like she's anxious or something. And she said,
Hmm.
"Oh, I
Hmm.
struggle with that." And he goes, "Oh, you're just like me." In him saying that, he has made it so that she also has the ability to do what he can do. So
Hmm.
some of the things that we then encounter throughout the book are what she has manifested.
It might be interesting to go back and have another read and see if we can spot those things after they have that conversation, because we certainly see it quite obviously. I think Nat tries to kind of make it very clear to us with the scene with the bats and like the hats on the ceiling in the garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That is just something I have never come across in my whole life, is that
Neither
somebody
have I.
so and I was even like I couldn't even do my classic like ugh, classic Americans. Like because it definitely
Mm.
doesn't even seem like anything I've ever seen in American culture. So just bear with me a second. The garage roof,
Hmm.
physically the ceiling,
Hmm.
there were a bunch of like hats on it, like baseball caps, like somebody would.
Baseball caps. Yeah.
Yeah, but why were they on the ceiling? I've seen them on like a wall in like a
Yeah.
yeah. What?
It was something like, was it they called it like the ceiling of shame or something? Because it was like, was it some kind of forfeit if you performed the worst at the kind of fishing trip or something? I think it was something like that. But I don't know why they were on the ceiling. And I also don't know why she thought they looked like bats. Like, I couldn't really, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe because they're like hanging and uh, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, you were talking about some of the rules that didn't make sense.
You were saying, I just think that you were saying, and I think you're totally right, that it's the things that he had a kind of passionate reaction to. But then she just says to him, as they're in this really life or death situation, like, we're going to jump and we're going to float off the roof. And it worked. And I don't know if I felt like the boy believed that enough. But then is
Yeah.
that her influence as well at that point? Or,
Oh, wait. Maybe that's interesting. Yeah, because I would agree with that. Like they're in a really high. tense situation. But every
Mhm.
other time that they are in that situation, she tries to tell him something to make it better and it
Mhm.
doesn't work. So maybe that's not necessarily something that is wrong, but it's we've missed
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
of it
Yeah.
actually being. But then surely she doesn't believe it either. Because the whole point is belief, right? That's the
Yes.
key, is the real belief that he thinks that this wolf's gonna get him, or his dad's a wolf, or his dad's a monster. Because it's very
Mhm.
clearly, I find that interesting as well as the the name of the book, obviously, and the title of the book about this wolf, he's not always depicted as a wolf. Um,
No.
he's depicted as a monster because I couldn't stop thinking about Man Bear Pig. Are you a South Park fan? Um,
Yes.
yeah, Man Bear Pig, just like half man, half bear, half pig. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
you're
it just
right.
it just because they kept mentioning that, oh, there's something else in there as well, rather than just wolf. So, hmm. But yeah,
Yeah, and I think it was the idea that he had a book, like he had a book of fairy tales, because we think that I mean, he is, but we think his dad is being incredibly cruel and
mm,
that he's keeping him from having access to any like books, toys, any kind of stimuli, basically. But the reason is because his dad is terrified that he will find something within that scary and manifest it and it will kill everybody. And it's almost trying to contain that by giving him little to nothing to go on. Um, so I thought the wolf thing was because he saw this creepy wolf in his fairy tale book. Must have been like, I don't know, Little Red Riding Hood or whatever.
mhm.
But then, as you say, that kind of doesn't quite seem to work because he isn't just a complete wolf. There is little hints of other things there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, mm. And then the celebrity thing as well. Like, again, are we then supposed to think that the boy is terrified of her being a celebrity because it could then blow their cover and dad would find them if she was high profile? But I don't think he had enough of a world view to truly understand or make that connection.
I think that's where it fell apart slightly because yeah, it's not just his fear, it's things he believes in.
Mm,
But then there's a part of me that's like, well, if he has the ability. Oh, it would, I suppose, because dad makes it so that he doesn't get any books, he doesn't get any television, he doesn't get any outside
mm,
influence. But I don't understand how he wouldn't have ever thought about other things.
mm,
But
mm.
then I suppose, has he been sheltered from a very young age to just not know anything? Like, how wouldn't you not as a child wish or like want ice cream and therefore,
Yeah. Yes, yeah, yeah. Why hasn't he been able to kind of manifest the things that he wants? Like if he wants a friend, like we see the very sweet scene of him in Target before he basically massacres everybody, where he just makes the little one of the little mannequins, one of the child mannequins, and like the kids' clothing section play with him, and
yes.
it's
Yeah.
lovely that we get those little reminders that this is like a 5-year-old boy that's
That's it. And
dealing with
actually,
this.
we do have a friend, don't we? His dad had to make him go away because he manifested him as like this invisible boy that comes from the wall. So, yeah, I mean that sounds fucking terrifying, and I'm glad that little kid is dead. Not the main character, that little boy from the wall is dead, and also the mannequin sounded terrifying as well. So,
It didn't sound great. And the fact that they were like, yeah, it's a promotional thing. Like, this is just what's happening now. And everybody was like, okay,
yeah,
sure.
whatever,
Um,
love.
yeah. Part that I did find really scary was kind of two parts. So definitely Santos dying.
Yes, and his whole sort of countdown to that feeling of the itch on his back. I had no idea that that was coming.
The way that that was written was horrifying. And the fact that his mum was like broken because she was grieving someone and she had no idea why or who or what was going on. Because she looked at a photograph, I think, that was maybe he wasn't in it, I suppose. I guess that was the point.
Yeah, it almost became like this moment of like you could see him like disappearing from places and almost like it gave me the feeling of like there was a photograph where he should have been. Oh
Yes.
yeah, God, just yeah, that was. And for me, what I loved about that is that she just never got over it and couldn't explain what was wrong. And did they mention she was checked into a mental asylum?
I think they said something like she was, and it was like for her, like tragically long life or something like that. Like the idea that she had to live with that grief, but not truly understanding where it came from for so
Oh,
long.
God.
Yeah, horrible. And her mum's death absolutely messed me up.
Yeah, I almost thought that she was going to get away.
Me
Um,
too.
and then when he arrives on this, or he wakes up and he goes in and I thought it was going to be that because the kid wakes up, doesn't he? And then like, so you think the wolf has been stopped, and I found that really
Yeah.
sad.
I, I really liked the way that Nat wrote grief as well. I thought it felt very painful, like the pain came through clearly in the writing. Even the part where she calls her mum's mobile, Santos has the phone and could answer it and find out where she is, but a part of him who I think lost his own dad and has dealt with grief himself basically just lets it go to voicemail because he knows she needs to hear her mum, and that's why she's calling.
Yeah.
And and I mean, he's not great forever because he does kind of really sort of regret not answering, but it's just that little moment of humanity that is really, really powerful in it. But yeah, those two scenes messed me up. I thought those were actually genuinely scary.
The end really like stuck with me. Him apologizing to his son and like holding him and just Jess sort of like walking away and hearing the gunshot and me being like, surely not. Surely he's not killed that kid. And then she comes back and he's killed that kid and then she kills him.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, I was surprised that that's where it went. Like that we actually saw a child get shot. Like that was shocking. But there were quite a lot of allusions and a lot of people, there was sort of commentary about what's going to happen. He's 5 years old right now. He's scared of like the dark and monsters. Like when he is an adult and is able to kind of develop cruelty, what what are we going to be up against then?
That's what they say, isn't it? They say I think it's the FBI agents talking to each other, so it's Santos and his boss,
Mm,
sort of saying like, or even is it her or something? Yeah, that somebody says that like what's going to happen when he's older and older and he can do those things and he realizes, yeah, no, yeah. So I understood it, but I was just like, you're only just apologizing now, like, and then you're
I
going to
know,
kill him.
I know, I know. Because the whole thing was really awful because he'd been part of a sort of government experiment.
Yes, post he was
Yeah.
coming out of the army, and then I think for a year or a year and a half, 2 years, he sort of willingly gave himself over to testing, and they were meant to
Hmm.
sterilize him,
Hmm.
but it just didn't work or something.
Something like that, yeah. And then his wife died in during childbirth of the boy. And then he just kind of runs away though. Like he doesn't let the boy stay in the facility and be tested on, and he steals him and runs away.
Yeah, he did for a little bit, I think. I think he did for
Hmm.
like a year or
Mm.
something, and then because they mentioned that, yeah, but also there was a line where you sort of you don't get told how the mother died. You know she died in childbirth, but like she was killed by the boy because they say something, well, how terrifying must experiencing birth be?
Yeah.
So the fact that I thought was really cool is that he doesn't manifest these powers, he has them straight away.
Yes. And he's got no control over them. And maybe he will. Like we don't ever get to see him older, but maybe day he could have had some control over them. But I thought it was interesting, as you said there, like if he does become aware of what he can do, is he going to use it for good or is he going to use it for ill? And can they take the risk?
Yeah. Let's talk about the ending. Like,
Oh, the ending.
so what do you think happened? Do you think that,
I think what you said is right. I think she basically, I think probably we've all been there. Like, if everything was just perfect, wouldn't life be great? Like, if we had nothing to worry about, wouldn't life just be idyllic and everything would be, this would be the best way to be. And so she kind of says, or uses her kind of powers to say, I want to remove everything that's scary from existence. Like I don't want to be afraid of anything anymore. And she mentions that she is afraid of everything. She's a
Mhm.
very anxious person. Um, and as a result of that, every single thing about humanity just ceases to exist. So she goes out on stage, in her kind of improv limbo
Yeah.
type world that she's in, and there's just nothing.
Yeah. I wondered as well, obviously, and I think I mentioned it in the summary, like everything born of fear. So the idea that as humans we reproduce so that we live on, that's a fear. So
Yes.
yeah, the idea that yeah, so for me it's one of two things. It's what we've said that she just completely eradicates the human race,
Hmm.
or we somehow transcend into a perfect world, an Elysium, where there is nothing to fear.
Hmm.
So, but
But then, as you say beautifully there, like everything is born of fear, like all inventions and ideas, people have had doubts and worries, and it's everything in a way has been a product of overcoming that fear. And that's what Jess, right to the end, doesn't really ever get to do, unfortunately, because we don't even really find out the true reality of what happened with her results from her blood
that
test because we think she's it's like something like the positive was on the screen or something, but then we don't know if that's real.
we don't know whether or not, because she believes it's going to be positive and because she has that
Yes.
overthinking and because she's anxious, she's almost willed it to be positive and thus it's
Hmm.
positive. Yeah, it's she's an unreliable narrator in a really weird way. Like she doesn't mean
Yes.
to be unreliable, but because she's afraid of everything, then we never really experience anything, I'm gonna say rationally.
Totally agree. There is I don't know if you're familiar with it or if you heard it talked about in different places, but there is a kind of this sort of talking point in therapy around what's called magical thinking. And this idea that
Right.
when you are extremely anxious, if you have, especially if you've got phobic tendencies or maybe OCD tendencies, in fact, it's very OCD. If I don't do this, X will happen. If I see something on TV, that means that's going to happen to me, or that can't just be a coincidence. That has to mean something more. And I think that that's what Jess suffers from. Her magical thinking literally becomes real because
Oh, that's clever. Because then obviously
mm,
like the idea that so yeah, you're right in that that afterward was great. I don't generally read afterwards, but I don't know, something
no,
about
nor
it was
do I.
really compelling. Um, so the idea that he clearly is maybe potentially aware of magical thinking, and that has potentially spawned this book.
Mm, which is so cool, like such a cool idea. And terrifying because the whole point of going to therapy and using magical thinking as an example is to show you that that's not going to happen. There's this thing where you might get shown this button and it's like if you click this button the world will end, and sometimes it'll be like a physical button that will be brought out and be like, well, press it, and then logically like that's not going to happen. So it's to show you like, well, if this extreme circumstance isn't going to happen, then what you are thinking about is also not any more likely to happen from doing that thing.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas he just turned that totally on his head and said, well, what if it did? What if you could make it happen by just believing it?
Yeah. Reviews?
I'm keen to hear them.
Do you want the ones or the fives?
Oh, let's go for the ones. I want to hear a different thought because I love this book. So yeah.
This one's sort of a sort of a double-edged sword. They think the afterword is a masterpiece. By far the best part of the book, in my humble opinion, it's only the 10 pages worth reading.
Ooh,
They say it's the worst book they've ever read this year,
ooh,
and
ouch.
they think the title is misleading.
Hmm.
The title should be called Daddy Issues, because it sort of leads on to the fact of Jess's unresolved issues with her father. She basically then starts complaining about how Jess is pathetic and unlikable. The ridiculous plot. They mention the cartoons, which I've got my own issues with. I don't think it's I don't think it makes the whole plot stupid. I think it just I reacted to a way where it was brought out. I was brought out of
Hmm.
that tension. So yeah, they were saying prepare for major disappointment.
Ooh, that's really scathing. I mean, I always you agree with me. I think we've talked about this before. Like, I do sort of automatically disagree with that kind of all or nothing review of like worst book ever written, like that kind of sensationalist line that people use, like this is the worst thing I've read this year and all that sort of stuff.
Unless it's Powerless by Lauren Roberts.
Fair, fair, yes, we stand by that 100%. Um, but if they haven't got anything to back it up, which I would say we have a whole podcast on why we think that, so go listen to that. But that person then did go into detail about what her thoughts are. I can see why Jess was unlikable. I can totally get it because I don't think it's a particularly likable trait in myself, avoiding things. Like I can see that why people would find that frustrating to read about. Like, you know,
I think that also I think I would suggest to this person and to everyone listening, like, does your main character have to be likable? Is that
no.
like, I would say that we were talking about it when we were talking about play nice. Like none somebody even mentioned like the sign of me actually caring about this book is a testament to the writing because I don't actually like any of the characters.
Mm,
So, but also I think it's this weird thing of like, oh, I didn't like the character. It's like, all right, well, what does that say about you, perhaps? Is it that
mm,
they're too close to home? Or is it that it's
mm.
something, or is it that it's something that you can't even fathom and thus you would never understand their motivations and stuff? So,
Mm.
you fucked either way, basically.
Totally. And I can, well, maybe that person doesn't think this, but I would thought that even if you disliked her, you could still understand this fucking horrible situation that she was in. And she did as right by that child as she possibly could, right to the very end. She really tried her best.
I
Where
would,
some people, and even her mum said to her, just dump him. This is not your problem to solve. Hand him into the authorities, leave him outside a police station or a hospital or whatever.
mm,
And she couldn't because she knew what he could do, what he was capable of. So there was probably an element of that there as well. But
I mean, I also think her own issues with her father and her sense of abandonment. That yeah. So, but
yeah,
also I did love the bit where I was so confused by it, where she pictures leaving him at the side of the road, and then she realizes what he might do to her, and
yeah.
then he's just like, "So I didn't do that."
I do think it's quite refreshing though that we don't have like this kind of main character who's doing it for all the right reasons. Like she is selfish in her reasons for doing it. It's like, well, I could have left him at the side of the road, but that would have made my life difficult because ultimately he could have taken revenge on me. So, oh
Yeah,
well, better get on with it then.
exactly. Yeah, I think it's real. It's a real
hmm
reaction to being in this situation.
Mm.
Anyway, another one star, couple of one stars focus on they think that the writing is atrocious. This is a
Ooh.
DNF. They finished at 200 pages in, and another one didn't DNF, but they do think the writing is bad. I didn't find that. I
No, I liked it.
yeah, I can't really say much else, I'm afraid, on that. Um,
I read the book fairly like really quite quickly, so it kind of gripped me from the beginning. It didn't feel like a chore to read. It wasn't too sort of onerous or wordy, but at the same time, I didn't think it was really simple. Yeah,
I think we've spoken about this before. When I don't have an opinion on the writing, or when I sort of don't really think about it, that's probably when it's just a bit not run of the mill, but like probably the best. Like I did think there was some beautiful imagery. And actually I'm gonna find it. And there were some beautiful
yeah.
lines. The first lines or the first bit of the book, you've got the boy. Yes, this is it. He's talking about how his dad is like shouting, how where it sounds as if the words rip out of him, pulling bits of throat along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how you can call that writing atrocious.
But no, I agree. I think there were some lovely bits in this and some really interesting ways to explore things. I think a lot of it could have been really kind of ham-fisted if it wasn't done as effectively as Nat Cassidy did it. So actually, I disagree with that. I think a lot of it was very visceral. There were some really well-written scenes. Again, we were talking about this in the last episode just enough to give us a sense of how bad things were, but not too descriptive that we lost the ability to imagine it for ourselves. Especially the scene where the monster turns up at her friend from work's house because she kind of goes there to try and doesn't really know where else to go, and kind of quite it's quite sad. She kind of overestimates their friendship a little bit and thinks that she's going to be like, yeah, of course, come in, like you can stay here. And really, she's like, why have you brought this to my door? I didn't want anything to do with this. But there's a description at that point when she's looking through the window and she realizes what's happened, and it's like she was like a twisted shape or something really. We knew exactly what was being described, but it wasn't too descriptive.
And I think as well, it's that classic horror. Again, we spoke about this last week. You don't need to tell us a lot of stuff. We allow our imaginations to put the worst of it onto it.
Yes. What do we think would be the most horrific thing to happen to her? We'll imagine that. Yeah,
And that's
totally.
exactly what happened to her. Yeah, that's what Nat Cassidy sat there saying. So,
Yeah.
what do you think would be the worst thing? Oh, yeah, that's exactly what's happened. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so basically, a lot of people thought that the plot was conceited and that the whole idea of the book was stupid. Said, you know what? Fuck werewolves. I should write about evil cartoons and daddy issues. Which
Mm.
I think they've perhaps, because for me, the book isn't necessarily about daddy issues, it's about fear and how we learn to be afraid.
Yes. And what we do to cope with that fear. The things
If
that we do to keep ourselves feeling safe, whether that's healthy or unhealthy.
Yeah, and if we even can keep ourselves feel,
Yes.
if we can ever
Yeah.
really truly feel safe. Um,
Yeah. I
so
agree.
I'm not going to say that person's wrong necessarily or that they haven't got it, but maybe, like I said before, maybe they just don't have that lived experience to appreciate the wider
Mm-hmm.
meaning of the book. And
I
that's
also think they have got annoyed because their expectations were not met. But at no point in this story, like, does it say like it's a werewolf book that follows all the werewolf tropes, so come and read it. It's the title is pretty misleading. I agree with what you said before, but you've assumed it's a werewolf book. That's not what Nat Cassidy's written.
yeah.
So you got to take what he's written and judge it on that, not what you just wanted him to write.
Absolutely. Also, I fucking love it when I go in expecting something and it's completely different, but it's also clever. Like,
Yes.
if you're gonna and look, don't get me wrong, I understand, like you're saying, people, the cover doesn't help either. It's a wolf at like a window, like, so I can't, and even the plot, um,
Hmm.
the plot summary or the blurb or whatever, you
Hmm.
know, you expect it to be her being hunted down by a wolf that is a man.
Hmm.
Um, and so I can obviously think people going in with certain expectations, but I love shit like I said, I love shit like that. Like, oh, okay, it's gonna be a werewolf. I like werewolves, that's cool. Ooh, this is different. You still get those
Hmm.
werewolves, but you also get a little bit more on top. What's not to love about that?
Agreed. Yep.
I would like to read out a line before I move into the
Mm-hmm.
5 stars. And this is
Hmm.
honestly, this just like, whew, it was a line, and I just went, oh fuck, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Um, our parents define so many things, she thinks. Love, hate, fear, provider, abuser, abandoner, monster, mirror. They mutate, they change.
Got shivers, just got chills on my legs listening to you say that there. Yeah, especially Mirror, really powerful, I thought. Really
Yeah.
interesting. And we've had many discussions about, turning into your parents and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's relatable for people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you
Yeah.
you don't have anxiety or you don't have that thing, there is always that. And if you have a sort of not necessarily a traditional, doesn't have to be traditional one parent or sorry, two parent existence. There's people you will look up to and see who are parental like, who they still do things wrong, and there's things that I don't want to become that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and it's the flawed thing as well. So you kind of mutating and changing. Like it's the idea that as you grow up, you realize that your parents are flawed, and you have to kind of accept that it's their first time living as well. And they're making mistakes, and that's hard. That's a hard thing to accept because that's your caregiver, that's your safety net. And you can't always rely on them.
That's it as well. You can't rely on the people that brought you into this world. which
Mm.
I think is a terrifying thought. I mean, because if I can't rely on you fully, then why did you bring
Mm.
me here?
Totally. Yeah.
Anyway, next week.
No, let's do the fives. Let's end on a happy note. Maybe. Mm.
Um, basically, a lot of people were talking about how much they loved this book, that it was incredible, that it left an impression on them.
Hmm.
Um, it impacted them, it emotionally destroyed them. So, some people say that they don't think the premise of the book's particularly new or revolutionary, but the novel takes a familiar, simple plot and executes it really well.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think if it had remained werewolf chase book, I think I would feel that way. But I think with the added level, I don't know. Hmm. Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's going to be a difficult one though, because if you like werewolves, happy days, but you might not like government experiments and kind of Stranger Things-esque stuff, but then you've kind of got to take that with this. So
Mm.
it's probably going to be polarizing because you do have to kind of get on board with a lot of different ideas in the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I highly recommend the author's note at the end. It will resonate with anyone who has a complicated relationship with their parents or has encountered real life shapeshifters. You might even be one yourself. And we spoke about that, and I've not actually made that connection until right now. I'm sure you already have. Um, but the idea that when we mask, we are shifting our shape into something
No,
else.
I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really interesting point and actually really does align nicely with the kind of werewolf idea as well, like transforming and changing and then maybe feeling regretful and just, upset or angry or whatever it is that kind of triggers that for you, but then it's the guilt afterwards when you kind of shift back to what you want to be perceived as.
Oof. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, she mentioned someone mentions that it's really good that they like that there's not actually a fictional villain or like monsters under the bed. It is
Yeah.
supernatural, but there's not there's not a supernatural antagonist. It's
Mhm.
they say it's about grief, trauma, the feelings of inadequacy, fractured family dynamics, personal guilt, and the ugly truths we bury deep inside ourselves.
Fair
Oh,
play. Yeah.
it's about those inner demons that keep us from truly living.
I think that's really fair, especially with the fear element of how much fear can hold you back as a person and how much your fears can sort of stop you from doing things that you want to do or you don't want to do, but you have to do, that kind of thing. So if you, and maybe that's the commentary Nat's making, that if you don't have fear and you don't find things, if you never feel afraid, you never step out of your comfort zone, what is life? Like, what is life really all about? And that's what happens at the end to Jess. She realizes that actually there's nothing left. If you're just going to be safe and everything's going to be in a bubble all the time, you're not stepping out your comfort zone, you're not experiencing new things. And is that there's any point to a life like that? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's it. It. I think what I took away from it is that fear is a necessity. It's
Hmm.
not, and we shouldn't all be cowering and afraid, but you need that fear to force you to do it to overcome that fear.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Agreed.
Um, Last one, just for fun. Well, actually, one, and then I'll mention another that made me laugh. Somebody just sobbed at the end. They listened to the audiobook and said it was brilliant.
Hmm.
Plot is fast-paced, emotional, scary as hell, and oftentimes laugh out loud funny. I will
Hmm.
never skip a Nat Cassidy book for as long as I live, and neither should you.
Interesting, because I think he has two kind of higher profile books, neither of which I have read. Have you read them? I think there's Mary and I don't think it is Changeling. It might be Hatchling or something like that.
You are so close. It's Nestlings.
Ah, damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of tempted to read one of them.
Well, let me read you Nat's own review of his book. Um,
Oh, fantastic. Great. Yeah.
5 stars. You're damn right I'm writing it, rating it 5 stars. I'm so excited for you to all read this one. If Mary was my homage to unreliable narrators, J horror, Gialli,
Ooh.
serial killers, and Nestlings was my homage to 70s paranoia, vampires, potboiler thrillers. then this
Ooh.
book is my homage to 80s action horror paperbacks, the kind you might pick up in an airport or a grocery store. It's a chase novel, but full of convention subversions and surprises to keep you on your toes. It's also about fathers and about how the nature of fear changes as we age. It's a little bit Twilight Zone, a little bit Dean Koontz, a little bit Firestarter, a little bit It, a little bit Ursula Le Guin, a little bit Terminator 2, and a lot of bit gonna melt your face off, but in a good way.
That's a great review.
Of his
And
own
really
work.
interesting of his own work, but I like the summary of those other books.
Mm.
Like the fact that it's a J horror inspired book really is kind of making me think, oh,
What's J horror?
Japanese horror, I think.
I was gonna ask if it was Japanese horror, but I wasn't
Yeah,
sure. The second word I said gyali,
no idea.
Gialli. Let's have a quick moment for me
Yeah,
to.
have a little look. I'm assuming it's J horror and that kind of creeping, unsettling,
Mm.
the imagery that J horror is very known for.
Oh, okay. So gialli is the Italian word for yellow. It might be gialli. I'm not sure. I might be pronouncing that wrong. And
Ooh.
refers to a film genre of Italian murder mystery thrillers that emerged in the 1960s, known for stylish violence, convoluted plots, and eroticism.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow. That's not what I wasn't expecting that after J horror. I didn't think that would go together.
The name comes from cheap paperback mystery novels with yellow covers that were popular in Italy, and these books were adapted into the influential giallo films, which predate the American slasher
Ooh,
genre.
interesting. Oh, that is really cool. Okay. So I would definitely want to pick up one of the other ones then at some point, especially that. Did you mention vampires there? I think you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty up our street, doesn't it?
It really does, yes. Um, but yeah, is there anything else we'd like to talk about? I'm trying. Did you have an ick? I don't think I did. Actually, oh no, I'll tell you what the ick was. My ick was, it was those things that they were eating from that jar all the time.
That's what I was thinking. I think it was like a kind of sweet licorice or like a licorice coated in like a candy kind of coating. It sounded revolting. I hate licorice.
I see, I love licorice and I love aniseed, but I just couldn't get over why he kept eating them despite the fact that he hated them. Like,
I don't know if it was meant to be like he was trying so desperately to be like the other guy and
mm,
wanted his approval so badly that he was trying to do things outside of his own kind of character, maybe. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
It was just the way that the guy was like, oh, they get their colorings from dead beetles.
I
And
know.
I was just like, wow, way to sell it, buddy.
Isn't that what blue Smarties were originally coloured by? But I think it got banned and they weren't allowed to do that anymore for
I
ethical reasons.
I cannot tell you that's why blue Smarties are different, but I can tell you that blue Smarties were different because they definitely had a certain E number in them that was meant to be high in sugar
Uh,
or something like that. Cannot tell you if that came from particular beetle or not, but
oh, have a
answer in
little
the
look.
comments, guys. Let us know.
I'm
Um,
just gonna put dead beetle Smarties and see if anything comes up. Oh yeah, no, but it wasn't the blue ones. It was the violet ones, apparently. They were previously dyed with ooh, cochineal, which are crushed dead insects.
yay!
So it's a dye. Yeah, gross. Um, not really a Smartie fan anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Thank God.
It's not ruining my experience of Smarties because I don't like them that much. But yeah, there you go.
I love Smarties. I love the orange Smarties, putting them in my
Oh
mouth
yeah,
and then just letting them melt a little and then biting. Oh yeah,
get it,
perfect.
get it. A
Perfect.
minstrel is also extremely good for that. If you can just let a minstrel melt long enough
Mm.
to go kind of gooey.
The
Yeah,
difference being is I'm not as patient with a minstrel as I am with a Smartie. Smaller,
that's fair.
easier. But yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, completely irrelevant
Anyway,
story. Um, how do you think this rates on like we've done quite a bit of horror, but
mm.
where do you think this
Mhm.
rates on like the scariness or sort of maybe a classic horror, or what do you think about this in regards to the other horrors we've read?
I don't, to me, it wasn't scary. I
Mm,
don't think there was any kind of creepy imagery, as we were saying before in last episode, that's going to stick with me and make me feel creeped out. Nothing like that. It was scary because it did hold the mirror up to a lot of things I was thinking about myself. So that was like quite unsettling and quite uncomfortable to read, but I enjoyed it because I did feel a lot of kind of empathy with Jess. Um, I think it's quite similar to like not so much, well, yes, classic horror, but not so much classic horror like Frankenstein, but more like the kind of classic horror of like maybe the kind of 70s and 80s, like that kind of classic horror.
Well, I see, I don't know. I think you might have been onto something. I think you are on, I agree with both, but like I definitely very much agree with the idea that horror was originally, if we take Mary Shelley as the mother of horror, and I'm not trying to suggest somebody else hasn't done it before her, but if we just take her as an example, then to me
Mm.
this speaks so much more as a horror book or a horror genre than anything like, oh, it's a bunch of serial killers going and fucking killing people.
Mm.
Because it's like he mentions about the Twilight Zone, like those stories are there to make us think. It's like Black Mirror, that sort of thing. That is
Yes.
what I would imagine true horror is, because nothing is scarier than the world or the reality we live in, right?
Mm. Totally agreed. And the ending was horrific. Like the fact that we just didn't get a happy ending. And even
Oh,
although it says it quite clearly in that content warning bit, which I did read at the start just
yep.
because I was needed to write them down, um, I still didn't realize what the happy ending meant. I thought it meant that that when the child died, that was like, oh, well, he didn't get his happy ending. I didn't realize that Jess wouldn't get hers.
Yeah, I don't think anyone got theirs, right? But then I real the reason it's ambiguous is obviously because Jess just doesn't is it that maybe she gives in to the fear and she ultimately either destroys the world or she just lives in that fear and nothing exists to her other than that. So
Mm.
yeah, who fucking knows?
Mm. As a thinker,
It is
but yeah, not scary for me.
fair. Fair.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
Do you know came in trying to temper my thoughts about it because I knew you loved it, and I was like, do you know what? Actually, I don't think I loved it as much, but actually, the more we've spoken about it, the more I have actually enjoyed it again.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah, really great, really good, a really nice twist, a different kind of type of horror. Always nice to sort of
Mhm.
read something that's a bit genre bending.
Good. Yeah, no, excellent. I've already recommended it to people, so yes, I definitely do recommend it. Um, if you've got it on your TBR and you're looking for something a little bit different, it's a shame now that you've listened to this podcast episode that you can't go in with your ads, can't go in blind, but if you could, then I think the experience will benefit from it because it certainly did for me.
Yeah. Amazing. And if you are listening to this having read it and came across this podcast somewhere for that reason, hopefully you agree with us. In terms of what else we could recommend, I mean, I'm not entirely sure.
I think, to be honest, everything that Nat Cassidy himself said it was inspired by, so like Dean Koontz and King, it's very not very similar, but it certainly borrows a lot from it,
Hmm,
which is a massive book with lots of quite troubling themes, but it is also incredibly good at doing what Nat Cassidy has just done, and that idea of what fear can do and how fear can manifest itself into a physical being. And I would say that in terms of scariness, it scared me more than this did.
yeah,
So there's
yeah.
some really creepy things in there. But then there's also like, underage sex in there too. So maybe just skip it if you want to, but there's also films. I don't think they included any of that in the film, so you could maybe just watch the film. They're
Look,
all underage, having sex together, and by doing so, they destroy a monster. Don't quite know why. And there's only one girl with all these other boys, so it's not the best.
yeah, it's basically a big old orgy. Anyway, we spoiled that for you, so you probably don't want to go and read that. Um, but yeah, no. In terms of like watch, I would say this is a strange one for us, and I think I mentioned it last week, or I mentioned it in this episode. I don't remember. Go and watch The Heretic because I feel like that has a really interesting like what's real, what's not. Is this
It does.
or
Yeah.
is what this person's saying true or is it all manufactured? You know, that sort of unreliable narrator. And if you want an unreliable narrator and you don't mind if it's horror or not, I could not highly recommend I could not recommend enough The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. So, yes, absolutely.
Classic. Yeah. Excellent. Next time, what are we reading next week?
We are reading My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones.
Yes, we are.
Until then, happy reading, and I'm going to say happy Halloween. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, well, I think it will be. So this is the week of, isn't it?
Probably.
No, next week is. Next week is. Never mind. Hope you had a good Halloween last time.
Woo! Bye.